Good morning. It is Friday, May 22nd, 2026. This is your deep dive daily briefing. I am your anchor, delivering a comprehensive analysis of the pivotal events that have defined the last 24 hours. We begin our broadcast on the world stage, where the delicate balance of international security has been tested by a dramatic escalation of strategic maneuvers. Overnight, Russia and its close ally Belarus concluded the final stage of a massive three-day joint nuclear weapons exercise. According to the Russian Ministry of Defense, the drills involved an expansive deployment of 64,000 troops, over 200 missile launchers, and more than 70 surface warships and submarines, including vessels carrying nuclear-tipped intercontinental ballistic missiles. Russian President Vladimir Putin described the maneuvers as an exceptional measure necessary to ensure state security, a move that comes amidst a sharp spike in Ukrainian drone activity near Moscow. Meanwhile, the diplomatic friction between Washington and Tehran has reached a critical juncture. While the United States military conducted an operation to board and search an Iranian-flagged oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman, President Donald Trump simultaneously announced that his administration is in the final stages of peace talks with Tehran, signaling a high-stakes combination of military deterrence and back-channel diplomacy as the international community waits for a definitive response regarding the status of the Strait of Hormuz.
Transitioning from these flashpoints of global security to the broader macroeconomic landscape, the economic fallout of the prolonged Middle East conflict is now actively suppressing global growth and reigniting inflation. Fresh data from S&P Global's Purchasing Managers' Indexes released this week indicates a widening divergence among the world's largest economies. While the United States manufacturing and services sectors maintained a steady pace in May, economic activity across Europe and Asia has sharply decelerated under the weight of surging energy costs. Economists warn that the global economy is facing its weakest non-pandemic expansion since the global financial crisis. In the Eurozone, the composite PMI plummeted to a multi-month low of 47.5, pointing toward a contraction in second-quarter gross domestic product. The inflationary impact is becoming systemic, with businesses in both the United States and Europe raising their selling prices at the fastest clip in years to absorb soaring input expenses, leaving central banks with an increasingly intractable dilemma between combating a downturn and anchoring inflation.
This reality of a fragmenting macroeconomic environment is driving a fundamental restructuring of the international financial and regulatory landscape. In Washington, lawmakers are responding to the erosion of traditional financial buffers by introducing landmark bipartisan legislation to modernize the nation's reserve assets. The American Reserve Modernization Act of 2026 was formally introduced on Thursday, aiming to establish a sovereign, strategic Bitcoin reserve. Proponents of the bill argue that as the global economy faces persistent inflation and state-level trade weaponization, the United States must diversify its core balance sheet to protect taxpayer interests and strengthen its long-term financial sovereignty. This legislative push coincides with an era of fiscal strain across Europe, exemplified by the International Monetary Fund's Article 4 consultation concluding statement for France. The IMF has warned that new headwinds from the Middle East are beginning to weigh heavily on European public finances, urging nations to aggressively implement multi-year consolidation strategies to sustain public debt sustainability while preserving essential outlays for defense and the digital transition.
Turning our attention to the technology sector, the structural push to manage massive data sets and fuel the artificial intelligence revolution is triggering a wave of institutional modernization and corporate consolidation. The United States General Services Administration has announced a landmark OneGov agreement with Snowflake, the AI data cloud company, to streamline data infrastructure across all federal agencies. In alignment with the White House AI Action Plan, this initiative is designed to break down long-standing bureaucratic data silos and reduce data storage and computing costs for the federal workforce by up to 50%, accelerating the deployment of mission-specific AI tools. This government-wide digital modernization reflects a broader commercial necessity, as computing tasks associated with next-generation agentic AI continue to face severe energy bottlenecks. Tech giants and utility providers are re-engineering their infrastructure efficiency, shifting away from overextended public grids to secure the massive, high-density power systems required to sustain the digital future.
Finally, we look at the logistics and supply chain networks that serve as the vital arteries of global commerce, which are now absorbing the operational realities of a permanently rewritten trade map. The maritime industry continues to operate at maximum capacity, with idle fleet capacity sitting near record lows as shipping lines fully commit to the longer Cape of Good Hope route to bypass volatile maritime choke points. To manage the immense complexity of these contested environments, logistics providers are aggressively turning toward autonomous software solutions. This week, the United States Marine Corps integrated Rune Technologies' advanced AI-powered predictive logistics platform, known as Tyros, into its primary command and control initiative, Project Freedom. This cutting-edge software allows tactical commanders to track and anticipate supply shortfalls even in communication-degraded environments, a development that parallels efforts in the commercial sector, such as DHL Supply Chain breaking ground on a massive European battery logistics hub in the Netherlands to secure regionalized, resilient energy storage supply chains.
In summary, the global landscape is defined by massive joint nuclear drills by Russia and Belarus occurring alongside high-stakes US-Iran negotiations, a divergence in global PMI data pointing to an economic slowdown and rising inflation, and a bipartisan push in the US Congress for a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Technological innovation is driving a unified federal data platform through the GSA, while the logistics sector relies on predictive AI and regionalized battery infrastructure to survive a fractured global trade network. Based on the current data, I predict that the economic divergence revealed in this week's PMI surveys will force a permanent fracture in global monetary policy through the remainder of 2026. The Federal Reserve, facing a resilient domestic manufacturing sector but accelerating price hikes, is highly likely to keep interest rates elevated for much longer than Wall Street anticipates. Conversely, the sharp contraction in European activity will likely compel the European Central Bank to prioritize growth over inflation, leading to a significant weakening of the euro against the dollar. Furthermore, the introduction of the American Reserve Modernization Act signals that digital assets are no longer a fringe phenomenon, but are being viewed as critical instruments of state-level financial defense, a trend that will likely accelerate as nations accept that the era of a unified, low-cost global trading system has officially come to an end.